Okay, so normally I do the weekly videos, right? I do the pregame and the postgame. This video it's like a breaking news type of video. It's, in a way, it is breaking news, but it's also news that I'm sure everyone is aware of. At this point, Zach was benched in yesterday's game, in the Buffalo game, but I just heard it before. He is now benched going into this week's Miami game. So, what does this mean to me? Okay, this marks, I should say, the end of Zach Wilson's career as a Jet. To me, there is no way that you can now still keep this guy on the team and keep trying to move forward with this guy. I think his tenure is over as a Jet. I think his Jet career is done, and because there's no way you can. This is the second time now this guy has been pulled from the starting lineup and benched. All right, so at this point, to me, you can no longer keep this guy on the team. He's got to be traded at this point. They're going to move forward with Boyle, okay? And listen, I've said this so many times in so many other videos. I never thought you should have kept Zach to begin with moving into this season. They should have kept Mike White. White should have learned under Rodgers. Boyle, I'm not that familiar with. So we'll see. He looks almost like a Mike White type, He's that pocket type of presence. From what I saw with him, and I'm not going to get too much into that now. This is more about Zach and what's going on with him now and his future. But just quickly, Tim Boyle looks to me like the type of guy who he's like a Mike White. He's tall, he's big, he's like a pocket presence. He looks like he's got a fast release. And again, I'm not going to get into it too much, but just quickly, you just saw the difference when he came into the game, how all of a sudden it seemed like there was life to the offense. Up to that point, Garrett Wilson had no receptions, and then you put in Boyle, and boom, right off the top, I think Wilson had 2 receptions. So let's get back to Zach. This is the end of his career as a Jet, okay? You have to now trade him. I would trade him now. Get him off the team now. There's no need to keep this guy on the team. He will only be a distraction at this point. There's no way you can keep him going into next year, okay? Because you already gave this guy 3 years. This guy has been given 3 years to prove that he can be, a franchise quarterback, a capable quarterback. He has not been able to do it. I don't know what it is about him. I don't know if it's just that he had this Wild West way of playing in college, and it worked in college, but it does not work in the NFL. The biggest problem that I can see with Zach Wilson that I've observed over his last 3 years playing is basically it seems like he doesn't have the ability to read the field, or he reads it too slow, or there's just something he relies too much on, he's always running out, of the pocket. He's always like scrambling, like he's just, like I said, doesn't work for the NFL. I mean, that's the way I see it, man. He's got a schoolyard type of play that it's just not good, man. It's not translating into a successful career as a quarterback in the NFL. And the Jets have wasted entirely way too much time on this fucking guy. And the only reason why they have kept this guy on the team this long has been because of their inability to just admit that they fucking made a mistake when they drafted him number 2. They should have just taken a note out of the 49ers book. What did the 49ers do? The 49ers gave up the fucking ranch to get Trey Lance. They gave up 3 first-round picks to get that fucking guy, which at the time I thought was ridiculous. But anyway, at least they realized their mistake, okay? And they traded him. They got him off the team. Once they realized that he was going nowhere, Purdy was the answer at that point, they got him off the team. They swallowed their mistake. They admitted they were wrong. They did the right thing. The Jets, up to this point, have not been able to do that. They have not been able to admit that they fucked up by drafting this guy. I knew when they drafted him number 2, I knew it was the wrong pick. Listen, that draft, all right, it kills me because they had the number 1 pick that entire fucking season. They should have had the pick to get Trevor Lawrence, all right? They fucked it up by winning, the last game or the last 2 games or whatever they did. It was like Gase's kiss of death as he was leaving, as he was walking out the door. You know, Gase fucked this team in so many different ways. Gase was the worst thing that I've ever seen happen to this team, and he fucking put a cherry on top of it by winning that last game or 2 to fuck them totally with that first-round pick to get Trevor Lawrence, because they were locked into that number 1 pick all season long. Gase fucks it up. They win the last, completely meaningless fucking game. All right? I think it was against the Rams. They shouldn't have even had any business winning that fucking game. All right? But anyway, they fuck up the number 1 pick. Now they can't get Lawrence. So now what do? They go with Zach Wilson. I'm telling you, I knew it at the time. It was not the right pick. So, but because they spent a number 2 pick on Zach Wilson, they had this mentality. We have to stay with this guy. We have to stay with this guy. We have to stay with this guy. He's going to work. No, he was never a capable franchise quarterback. You kept him way too fucking long. At least now at this point, okay? At least at this point, do what you need to do. Get him off the fucking team. Listen, it's nothing personal against the guy at this point. He did take a step in his maturity. From last year, he was humbled. He's been saying the right things in the interview, in the post-game interviews. But the bottom line is this, all right? He's been given ample chances to fucking prove himself. He hasn't been able to do it. Every time you pull him and you put somebody else in, it doesn't matter who the fuck you put in. That all of a sudden the offense can work and can be productive. So that's it, man. It's over. You got to trade him now. And listen, what are you going to do? At this point, that's what needs to be done. And you know what? This was a long time coming. It really was. It almost makes you think they should have benched him sooner in this season. Just to give this team a chance. Because now this fucking team is, we'll see what happens against Miami. But, I mean, where's this team going at this point this year? And, just to add something to all of this, listen, going back to the beginning of this season, even earlier into the offseason when it was okay, they were trying to replace Zach with another quarterback. I didn't want Rodgers back then because, why? He's at the end of his career, and I wanted somebody who can come in and be here, a.k.a. Derek Carr. That's who I really wanted. Somebody who could be here for another 8 fucking years. You know what I'm saying? But they went with Rodgers. They went with that whole thing. They went as far as, now this is a problem, They went as far as getting Hackett as the offensive coordinator to suit Rodgers and make that whole thing work right now. Now what do? Because they're still waiting for Rodgers to come back. Like, Rodgers is going to, like, just save this franchise and win a Super Bowl. Listen, at this point, man, he's recovering from a major injury. He's 40 fucking years old at this point. I think he's 40 at this point. If he's not, he's going to be 40 really fucking soon. All right? So, you don't know. He can come back and rip the Achilles again, or he could fucking do, like he is not 20 years old anymore. All right? So, but they're hanging their hat now on something else. Again, they're hanging their hat on something else. Now, what the fuck is going on with this shit? All right, so again, they're hanging their hat on something else that they really shouldn't be hanging their hat on, all right? But they're invested, okay? Like, same thing with Wilson. They felt like they were invested. Now they with Rodgers, they're invested. They hired Hackett. They're talking about Devontae Adams coming here, Lazard, all that fucking shit for Rodgers. All right, Rodgers isn't even playing this year. It's almost like they wasted a whole fucking year because of Aaron Rodgers. If anything, all this did was, and I said this in the beginning of this season with these videos, I said it's a good thing now that you're going to see Zach step in, because at least now we will really get a chance to see where this guy stands with this franchise. And now I think it is blatantly obvious he's done with this franchise. He's done with this team. It had to happen, and that's it, man. Now you got to trade him. So what else do you say at this point other than good luck? And that's it, man. But this team has a problem now moving forward with quarterback, because, like I just said, Rodgers is not a 20-year-old quarterback, man. Even if he comes back and has a productive year or two for this team, that's it, man. How much further do you think this guy is going in his career? All right, especially with this offensive line that this team has. So, what do you do, man? Who do you have? After Rodgers, Zach obviously is gone. He's got to be gone now. So he is not the answer. There's no way you could fucking keep him on the team. He's got to go. So Zach is now gone. All right. So who's the future quarterback of this team? So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world for this team to just fucking lose out for the rest of this season and grab a quarterback in the draft next year. So, listen, man, it is what it is, So, basically, this is a sayonara to Zach Wilson, man. To me, this is the end of his career as a Jet. And it feels like it should have happened before the season even started, to me. All right? Like I said, even if they would have kept Mike White and shipped off Wilson. But they couldn't swallow their mistake. They couldn't swallow that whole fucking thing about drafting him, number 2. And look at what happened. You got rid of Mike White, and you wasted, more than half this season on this guy again. So, but it is what it is. It's at where it's at. I'm just glad now that, listen, if there's anything positive about this situation right now, it's this. At least they had the balls to fucking pull him in yesterday's game, and they had the balls to bench him going into the Miami game, because to me now that is the clear sign, okay, that they know they have to now move on from him, like, completely. So if there's anything to take out of this, that's a good thing. It's his benching going into the Miami game. That is, to me, that is the clear signal that maybe finally this team is going to move on in the right direction by getting rid of this guy and just now whatever they got to do to, try and get another franchise quarterback. So, you have the Rodgers thing that's still going to happen, but they got to start thinking about future now. Okay, fine. You want to do the Rodgers thing for another 2 years? That's fine. Fucking draft the quarterback this year in the upcoming draft. That's it, man. Why didn't they go after Baker Mayfield? Why didn't they get Derek Carr? Those were my questions. Didn't happen. All right, so it is what it is. They got to move forward in some other way to now look for another franchise quarterback. But at least, it seems like now they're going in the right direction. It had to happen. You had to bench him again, and like I said, you cannot. There's no fucking way you can now keep him on the team, thinking that okay, he's still going to be a project. He's still going to be good. That's it, man. Done deal. Trade him and move on. That's it, man. Listen, Zach. It was nice. It was nice knowing you. I don't know what else to say. It did not work out with this guy, and that's it. So big news. Really, to me, it's really big news, and that's why this will be a separate video on its own, just to discuss this situation with this guy, and that's it. Now I'm getting ready to do I'm also going to do the Buffalo postgame video, so look for that, and I will also do the Miami pregame video, so look for that. All right, man. Time to move on from Zach Wilson. It's about time.